National Rescue Consultants presents Train to Live podcast with Herb Tyler, Greg Rogers, and Rob Ramirez. Talking all things fire and technical rescue. So pour a drink and enjoy the show.
Good evening, gentlemen.
What's going on?
What's up, Herb? How are you, Chief?
What's going on, Pablo?
Yes, sir. Very good.
Hey, just for the listeners that are tuned in, I know they don't look like Greg and Rob, but I had to call in my brothers for a fill-in because Rob's out of town and Greg's currently on the pile down at Surfside with Florida Task Force 2. So I called Pablo and I called Chief, and they said, hey, let's do it. So here we are.
I said it's what it takes. It takes brothers helping brothers.
Hey, man, it's literally almost like if I'm Rob, because Rob is Cuban, he's Spanish, I'm Cuban, I'm Spanish. You just literally replaced. It's just interchangeable, except for the fact that he's just much better looking and smarter and all the above.
Exactly.
Well, now, I'm a lot younger than Greg, but I couldn't grow that mustache. I tried. It was not an overnight task.
No. That's his signature mustache right there, man. First and foremost, man, I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's literally an honor having you guys on. It's an honor to be able to call you guys brothers, because it's the two of us, you and Pablo, have just became true brothers to me, and I talk to you guys all the time, and I appreciate everything, man. Honestly, it's a true honor to call you guys brothers.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
So tonight we got a special guest, and before we get into it, we're gonna just kind of take a moment of silence, and we want to wish our brothers and sisters that are out there right now on the Surfside collapse in Miami. I'm sure you guys recognize that familiar face there on the left. That's Greg Rogers right there. He's currently down there on the collapse. So he got called 22 hours after the accident happened, and he got deployed. So he's currently down there right now. So let's keep all the brothers and sisters in our prayers, and make sure that they get back safe when they're dealing with all that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a terrible thing, and man, I pray for everybody down there. It's not anything you think to see in your own city, and I'm just grateful that there's a bunch of studs down there that are willing to go and crawl through that stuff and save any lives that they can save, and for those who have unfortunately passed on, can bring them home to their families. Absolutely.
I said this on my personal Facebook when it happened. If there is a small bright side, and I use that term very, very loosely, and I apologize to anybody with the term in general, but if there's a small bright side to it happened literally in the backyard of two of the absolute best USAR teams on the planet. Some places in this country, some places in this world have to wait for days for that type of response, and man, God bless everybody, brother. I can't even imagine. So that's I can't imagine what the families are going through, what our men and women on all the task forces are going through. So God bless them all, man.
100%, man. It's one of those things that no one expected that to happen, and the men and women that responded immediately and put their life on hold to go out there to potentially start saving the trapped and work their ass off, man. It's it takes an emotional toll on people, and I don't care how tough you are or whatever the case may be, that's going to wear on you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's so many different support mechanisms out there. There's a ton of people out there on scene right now offering peer support and stuff like that. So it's huge, man. So with that being said, I just want to wish that and say a prayer that they all come back and I mean, honestly, it's a loss for words. I'm never normally at a loss for words, but that's a huge tragedy that happened, man, and it's sad. It's
It is. It is, and to piggyback on what Pablo was saying, about the brotherhood and the positive is, let's talk about all the people that have come down the Surfside to help, man. I mean, from Israel and Canada and Fairfax, Virginia. I mean, all was it 6-7 teams from Florida.
yeah.
I think they have LA County there from what I was reading. It's just absolutely amazing, man, to see that the brotherhood, people want to know if it's alive and well. Well, I'm telling you, man, when they flew from Israel to come help in South Florida, I can tell you the brotherhood's real, man.
Yeah. No matter what's going on in the country, man, I always believe that shit doesn't really affect the fire service. The fire service does not see religion, does not see color, does not see race. The firemen, firewomen, firemen, firefighters that's just what we do. We enjoy the job, at the true essence of it. And this is just another example of what we really do for a living and how we really feel about the job. So, man, I'm at a loss for words, just like you. I'm at a loss for words, and fucking God bless them all, man. Seriously.
Yeah, God bless them.
Well, so when we were sitting there and with Rob not being able to make it on, and Greg obviously being deployed, I reached out to him. I said, "Hey, we're gonna do another podcast." They were like, "Hey, do it." Told them that you guys were coming on. They were all in, and I spoke with Chief Johnson, and I said, "Hey, man," I said, "I'd really like to bring guests on," and literally, Chief goes, "Say no more. I'll take care of it." And I'm going to let Chief go into it and introduce our special guest tonight.
All right, man. Well, look, special guest tonight is a dear friend of mine, one of my very best friends. Worked alongside of him for many years, fought fire alongside of him many years, and he's got a couple funny stories about that too. But we'll get into it, right? This is District Chief Jason Corthell. He's a fourth-generation firefighter. Started his firefighting career as a volunteer with Cy Creek up in Northwest Houston, in 2004. After attending fire school, he took a slight detour and went to the military. He was a member of the U.S. Marine Corps from 2006 to 10. And as soon as he returned home from his military stint, he resumed his firefighting profession by returning to Cy Creek and then eventually being hired full-time with us in Pearland. Jason served with Pearland for 5 years, resigning as a lieutenant in 2016 and returning to his home department of Cy Creek to serve as the district chief. Jason also works part-time at Lone Star College Cy Fair Fire Academy, alongside with me there as well. So it's really good to have him back and be working alongside of him. Jason has a great passion and drive for progressing mental health in the fire service through both professional and personal battles and experiences. He has implemented and influenced many others in the pursuit of providing first responders the help that they need. The Corthell family resides in Hockley, Texas, where he's happily married with 3 children and enjoys woodworking, sports, traveling, breweries, and grilling. And I can tell you from personal experience, boys, Corthell is one of a kind. His family is like my family. His wife, Patty, and his kids are just absolutely amazing, good friends. We send pictures back and forth all the time of old memories of the kids, my kid and his 3 kids when they were little. So, man, it's an honor to have Jason here tonight. It's an honor for me to be on this podcast, and I'm ready to dig it out with him.
All right. Without further ado, let's introduce.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
How's it going, Chief?
Oh, man, it's going. Thanks for having me.
What's up, my man?
What's up, brother? It's awesome to be here. Thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No better person I could think of.
It was literally, I asked him, "Hey, I want to bring a guest on," and when I tell you no bullshit, he goes, "Say no more. I'll take care of it." That was literally the conversation.
Yep.
That's so awesome to be thought of in that regard by not only you, but obviously my best friend. So that's awesome, man. Like I said, I really appreciate the platform and trying to get this message and this process out there.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, Jason, if you would, man, take a little bit of time, brother, and tell us more about yourself. Tell us about your path. I mean, we kind of went through it in your biography there, but what path did you take to get where you are today, where you sit as a district chief and there in Cy Creek?
Yeah, so graduated high school in 2004. Right when I graduated high school, I came down to Cypress, Texas, I got with one of my other buddies there, who's also one of the district chiefs, or the battalion chiefs, I'm sorry, down in Pearland, Jack Johnson. We went through fire school together. And then after fire school, I went to the Marine Corps and got my EMT in the Marine Corps, and came out and went to Pearland. And that was my first full-time job. Stayed with Cypress Creek, eventually went part-time. And then opportunity arose in 2016 to take a district chief job that I didn't think I was ready for at all at my age. And it was a total blessing in disguise, the way that things have been now, how fast we're growing as a department, and the opportunities that I have to have the impact in such a young, growing department. I think that that's something that's that can be lost sometimes in a small department, is people don't understand the amount of impact you have is so much greater in a department that's not yet established in their ways. You can really influence them one way or another. So that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to find my niche and make a way possible for the betterment of the personnel and the firefighters. And that's one thing that has always been instilled in me by all my leaders, is to always take care of your people. When in doubt, decide on taking care of your people, and you can't go wrong. So that's what I'm just trying to do.
Well, man, that's awesome. I can tell you, you're doing that, man. You're a shining example, man. I'm very proud of you, man. Everything that you've accomplished and overcome in your life, and to sit where you sit today, it's just simply amazing, Jason. So I'm very proud of you, my dude. I would like to say that I think I was a small part of your growth there as an officer, but my favorite memory of you and me together, man, was March 21st of 2016 when you relieved me, or when I relieved you for the last time, and we took that picture there at Station 5. So of all the memories we have together, that's one of my favorites, where it's kind of, you kind of grew up and you took on your own path there into Side Creek, and it was awesome to see you go and thrive, man. And, don't ever doubt yourself, my dude, because you're doing awesome, man. You're exactly what you need to be as a district chief, and you're the leader that you always said you wanted to be. So very proud of you, man.
I appreciate that, brother.
So, Chief, I got a question for you. You're a fourth generation fireman.
Correct. Yes.
So you knew from day one that that's just what you were meant to do.
Yeah, I've always told my dad, I mean, if I didn't make it in some type of professional sport, that I wanted to be a firefighter. And now that I'm in this profession, I'm sure it doesn't take being a fourth generation firefighter to feel like you'd be useless doing anything else. And that's just how I felt. I mean, I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, and I could not wait. I was counting down the days until I could get back and get back on a fire truck and get back in the station. I would watch YouTube videos every single day that I was on duty in the Marine Corps, and I'd just watch fire trucks responding. I mean, as squirrely as that may sound, that's how bad I missed it. And so my great grandpa was a fire chief in Oregon, and my grandpa was a fire chief in Idaho, and my dad is a captain right now in Tualatin Valley, up near Portland.
That's awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
Hey, and your dad's got a pretty badass job outside of being a captain too.
Yeah, my dad works for Nike, so I get to hook up pretty good.
Oh shit!
Damn, now that's a nice hookup to have.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Good.
Sounds like you and me might just be.
That's what I'm saying. I get to make a lot of friends that way too.
Hey, his dad's one of a kind, boys. I'm telling you right now. I call him Pops, and I mean it, man. His dad, if you meet him one time and give you a hug on the neck, and he'll say, "You're my son." So, yeah, old Michael.
So Chief, what I didn't really get a chance to go into depth on it, but with you taking the new job and becoming that district chief in that young growing department, what is it that maybe you found that has been an obstacle or a hurdle taking that new job, or any advice that you can give some of these upcoming officers to maybe help them?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest hurdle for me was this was not only a new job, it wasn't only a new position for me, it was a new position for the entire department. We've never had district chiefs before. That's how new we were. Since then, we've gone on, and I would say we're probably half full-time, part-time, half volunteer department at this point. We've hired on full-time crews. We have 3 full-timers staffing each one of our trucks with a part-time volunteer riding that 4th seat. We're about to have 5 stations. We have 3 shifts. So, I mean, we're moving that full-time direction right now. So trying to build that and be in a district chief role was a little cumbersome at first. But my big thing was trying to find my niche. Where can I help this department the most? I don't want to pretend to be good at something that I'm not good at and tell them, yeah, sure, I'll do it, and be a yes man, and then either fail miserably or jack something up worse than it needed to be from the jump. So I knew that I needed to find something I was good at quick and something I had experience in, and really divulge into that to make my worth in the department. And that was my biggest thing, was to make the biggest impact I could in the area that I was probably the most comfortable with. And then obviously a little bit of the officer side that comes out is when you're starting out as a lieutenant or a captain, a lot of times you're in charge of people that might be older than you. I run into that a lot, and it takes time to gain those old heads' trust. It really does. And so, respect is earned, it's not given. And that's a true statement, as cliche as it is. But I just think as a young officer, as a young chief officer, those guys will come around once you prove yourself.
Yeah, that's very well said. It's so similar to you. I got hired on at a very young age in the fire service, and when you go through and you start, whether taking the job super serious or whatever it takes, I mean, no matter what department you work at, there's always those few guys that are just ate up with it. And if they promote early, you do run into that. Hey, the old heads might not take you as serious. And just because you got the bugle doesn't mean anything.
Right.
They respect the rank. They might not respect the person.
Right.
So respecting the rank is one thing, but gaining that respect and that trust as the person, that's where that comes into an everyday nonstop. You have to work at it. You have to make them understand that, hey, I'm here for you. So I could definitely see where that is something that takes a lot of work, and it's something that you got to work on every day. So I see it in the fire service a lot because I'm very fortunate to travel a lot. Some of these guys end up getting that bugle, and it turns into brass poisoning. Because they get the bugle and they automatically think, you know what, I'm God's gift to the fire service. No, I'm going to be honest with you, you just tested good that day.
Yes,
that's right. You just tested good.
And said it better.
And that's the reality of it. But and that's just a culture that has to change. But it's probably been that way since way back in your great granddad's time. So
yep.
It's just one of those things, and you can't lose sight and of what your mission is and within the fire service. So it's awesome, man, and very well said. And I'm writing down notes as you're talking, so I appreciate it.
Oh, of course, not a problem. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I mean, and I think it's important, for all the listeners out there to understand, right? Like, it does not matter what color your shirt is or how many trumpets you have on your chest, man. It's the person beyond that makes the position. It's not the trumpets. It's not the color of your shirt. If you're a chief and you want to wear white or you want to wear blue or you want to wear gray or whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as the person beyond that shirt is a good human being and knows how to treat people and knows how to motivate people and express discipline, like Pablo says all the time, right? Like, when motivation stops, discipline takes over. So if you're that type of person beyond the shirt, then that's going to be the sign of a true leader, and that's the people you want to surround yourself with in your fire department.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
I couldn't agree more. Just from a tailboard standpoint, I'm not an officer, but the senior man goes a long way with that same style. A lot of people think that just because you have time on the job, that equals to respect. And I could not disagree anymore with that anymore. Respect is, at the tailboard, at the fireman's level, respect is earned.
Yeah.
What do you do with what do you do with your throughout your day? Like, do you just come in and tits up on the recliner, or do you just do you go out and actually go and work and earn the trust of your crew? And there is no boring days. There shouldn't be a boring day at a firehouse. You could always literally find something to do. The other day at my firehouse, we literally, I don't know if you guys saw on my personal Facebook, literally it was a rainy day, whatever. We brought out our cribbing. We got the cribbing and the airbags and put them inside and lifted up the pool table. We were just messing around with the pool table, and lift up the pool table with the cribbing and the airbags. Kill two birds with one stone. Do something kind of fun, and at the same time you get some training in. So it's like same thing with the men and women at the firehouse that have time on the job. It's earned. It is earned, not given. And just because you have a little bit of time on the job does not mean shit.
That's right. Hey, and let me tell you, just seeing a pool table in the firehouse got me excited. I think I'm gonna go apply at Marion County, man.
That thing, and for the guys that are listening tonight from my firehouse, that thing was so freaking wonky off to the side. We're like, dude, we got to do something with it. We're like, just get the cribbing and the airbags.
That's awesome.
Oh man.
So Chief, Chief Johnson talked to us a little bit about some of the mental health stuff that you're into.
Man.
I really would like you to just dive deep into it and let us know where it all started for you.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, like Pablo said, when I went into this thing, as far as like the mental health project, I wanted to make it as simplistic as possible so that the rookie coming in on their first shift knew the resources, but more importantly, knew how to also contribute to help others. And that they knew that, yes, there was help for them, but there are also ways to empower them to help other people too. And so that was my first goal in mind, was to make sure that it was all inclusive. It wasn't just, somebody with a bunch of, bugles coming down, saying this is what we're going to do. And this is the flavor of the month. And here it is. I wanted it to be sustainable, but I wanted it to be all inclusive as well. So as I digress, where I got my passion for it was in 2014, started going through a divorce, and that turned into all kinds of addiction and alcoholism and all kinds of stuff, just bad way of living. And in the fire service as a whole, I don't blame the fire department I was with at all. But the fire service as a whole, I think that was kind of the ending point of where we were lacking. In 2015, I went through a catastrophic knee injury due to a collapse in an apartment building. Messed me up good. On top of that, I was going through a divorce. I had moved out of my house. I didn't have anyone there to watch after me, take care of me, nothing except my brothers. They all did great jobs. A lot of times people would stop by and I wouldn't want them to, because I'd be sleeping and they'd just be there to annoy me. But a lot of the firefighter guys would come by and say hi to me and take care of me. But a lot of that came with some unforeseen popularity as well. When you hit the news articles and the Facebook and the Instagrams and stuff like that, and there's stuff coming out, about a firefighter that got hurt in a building collapse, and people start coming out of the woodwork. And most of the time it's with good intent, but sometimes it's not. And it can get overwhelming pretty quick if you don't have somebody there to kind of filter all that stuff for you. And of course, I didn't have anybody. I was by myself going through a divorce and dealing with addiction and alcoholism and all that. So not knowing where to go and not having a source, the first thing that I went to was my faith, and going back and getting into church and seeking the faith route. Growing up, that's just how it was. I knew that I always had somewhere to go within the church. And so that's the only thing I knew that was my basis. So I went there, talked to the pastor, kind of got me back on my feet, got me rolling a little bit, and then got into some more situations where I needed help in the fire service. And so I went to the chaplain and I talked to the chaplain. I said, hey man, this is what's going on. Again, he helped me out. And so I started looking back at that, and then I realized that I had a lot of peer support during that time because I hadn't gone to formal counseling. So I was like, man, this peer support thing might have some value to it. So then I started thinking about peer support. And then I started going to formal counseling, and lo and behold, what is it? Probably 4 years after my incident, I've kind of tended to slow down a little bit in my life, and I want to affect others in that way. And so when I first got to Cypress Creek, I started a wellness and fitness initiative, and it was the goal of mine to put a gym inside of every firehouse that we have, which was only 4 at the time. Now it's soon to be 5 this fall. So we went ahead and we opened up Station 21's gym, and it was a brand new renovation. I got to spend a lot of money on a lot of good equipment for the guys and the gals of our department. And then I got to take whatever money we had left and put spot equipment in our other stations that are smaller, but they got to have those. And at that point, I thought I was pretty much done. I was like, wellness and fitness initiative is over. Like, that's good. I gave them gym equipment. They should be all right. And we had a lady in our department who her name is Dr. Liz Fletcher. She used to volunteer with us, and now she's one of our safety officers. And she's a professor at University of Houston, super smart lady, super intelligent lady. And she came up to me and she said, have you ever thought about putting together a mental wellness program as part of the wellness and fitness initiative? And I said, well, no. I said, I just thought a wellness and fitness initiative like it was just working out, and getting into shape. And so she approached me, and I told her that I would work with her on it. And I never knew or never thought in a million years that it would get to the volume and to the effectiveness that it has today. We put together a program that's a 3-tiered program. It has every faucet that I used when I was going through my situations and my issues. It has chaplaincy, it has peer support, and it has the formal counseling involved. And each one of those tiers have a long story behind them. So that's what I like explaining to people, is the process that we went to go about getting all of those things set. In the middle of the launch, we lost our chaplains. The chaplain group went under because of COVID and funding and all that stuff. And so we had to really switch gears. And that was an awesome experience to go through, because I got to seek out chaplains within our own department, people that were interested in doing it. And then I got to fund that through the department. And we're going to have our first 2 chaplains announced in the next coming weeks. So, I mean, it's just really cool stuff like that that's happening, man. Our peer support groups launched. It just launched not too long ago. Our formal counselors, we've embedded counselors in the fire station. And so you can imagine how that was first received. But now it's a completely different story. So I'm willing to answer any questions about anything about the program that anyone has. It's my passion. I would love to help other people and coach other people through the process. That's my end goal, is to make sure that nobody feels like they're lost, whether you're a rookie or a fire chief. For those departments that don't have those 3 faucets, I feel like they're very easily attainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I know that all this derives from, for what you were saying, your catastrophic event. Mm-hmm. And I know that I wake up every morning on March 27th and I text you the same thing every year. Like, I'm so glad that God chose you, like God chose to keep you. And I mean that. And it's because of nights like tonight and everything that you've been doing over the last few years of going around and spreading this message. And if you don't mind, I'd like you to bring us through that day and then kind of bring us deeper into what you developed to make the job better, and what you developed to put the message out there to get people the help that they need and feel okay about getting it.
Yeah, I mean, so after that day, like I said, I felt a lot of isolation, a lot of separation. I was already struggling, and my go-to was to get to the fire station in any shape I could, sober, drunk, whatever. and find refuge at the firehouse. Because I knew that if I was at the firehouse, I was with people who loved me. I felt safe because I didn't have that at home because I was going through a divorce. And so I would show up to the firehouse in any type of condition, and I would try to stick it out and make it happen the best that I could. And there's a couple people that noticed and took me under their wing and said, hey, man, like, you got to straighten up. People are noticing some changes in you. And, I took heed to that and I made some changes, but again, temporary. And then once that accident happened, about a year later, when I was kind of going through my divorce, the isolation set in, I guess, worthiness. There was a little bit of survivor's guilt, not that anyone died, but I did lose a brother of mine, from the fire service. He quit the fire service because he felt like he could no longer continue on. And so that part sucked. Is why did it affect him that way and me this way? Why is it empowering to me and why did it hurt him so bad? And so I felt like, man, if I could just take the heat for him or take the fall for him, I would. So I had to deal with a lot of that as well. And I didn't have anywhere to go that I felt like in the fire service that someone would understand me. So, like I said, my peers helped me out. They were great. My friends were great, but I needed more. And so I went to the chaplain, still needed more. And I finally went to a counselor who pretty much understood what I was going through. But again, there was a lack of, do they understand first responders and what we do? And how do I find a counselor like that? And so within this program that I've constructed, I've taken a local counseling group that's in our district. And I know sometimes people don't have that benefit, but you'd be surprised with how many counselors might reside in your district that can do some, contractual work. But regardless, I got with this counseling group and I asked them if they would be willing to come into an agreement with us through an MOU, memorandum of understanding, and contractually get with us to allow our people counseling sessions. That was my first step, was to get counseling sessions. Next step was to get them for free and what amount. So we got them 7 free counseling sessions that the department will pay for. And also, I needed to make sure that I put counselors in the box that were ready to go, that understood first responders. And so they had one counselor who had a little bit of first responder work as a paramedic, and that was it. And so I thought, well, what if we embed counselors that don't have any kind of first responder experience so they can get to know our people, ride out on the trucks, know what we see, know what we go through. And that project is still ongoing right now. The guys absolutely love the counselor we have that embeds with us. We've had just such a rise in the numbers of folks seeking counseling. And, it's kind of a two-edged sword. You look at the numbers and you're like, man, like, we have this many people who need counseling. Like, that's a little scary. But then at the same time, you're like, thank God we have counseling for this many people, Yeah. And so that's where, that's where I'm at now. Is chaplaincy is great, and there's a place for it in the fire service. I believe in that wholeheartedly. That's why it's part of my program. Peer support is great. I think 95% of our problems as firefighters can be solved by peer support. And then you have to worry about the other 5% that aren't solved by that. And then that comes in with the formal counseling. You get the formal counselor on board. You get somebody who knows who they're dealing with and has gained their trust. And that was the most important thing to me, was to get a counselor in there that knows what they're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
I got something to add to that, and you just said about the other 5%. So a little bit of a personal note on that, just because I'm hearing you and you're touching on so many levels that are even personal to me. I'm going on a year. I just did the math. A year, 3 months, and 20 days sober. 21 days.
Congrats,
sober.
man. That's awesome.
I feel great. I'm the best I've ever felt in my life has been in the last year and a half or so, and it's a beautiful feeling. But and my department, for example, like we have chaplaincy. It's one of the better chaplains I've ever met, Chaplain Joe Lancanada. He literally was just down in Surfside, Miami. He deployed down with Task Force 8 just to go down there and pray over the men. The guy is phenomenal.
Sure.
My department also, and not to name drop. I love what these guys have done. But Chief Drew Rogers here with the MCFR Wellness Center. We have a wellness center. We legitimately have a gym that is dedicated to Marion County and getting people physically and mentally in shape. Battalion Chief Chad Belger with his Recovery RX. He's also gone through some personal issues with himself, and he's on the other side of getting better now, and he does Recovery RX workouts. He wants to get people better through physical fitness and stuff like that. So we're huge on that over here. I myself am I'm in that journey right now in which physical fitness has absolutely led me to the other side of what was at one point sick, and the mental aspect of it. A lot of people don't realize that physical fitness and having that wellness center and having that peer support, in which we do have one here also in Marion County, and have the chaplaincy and having people to connect with, it does help out 100%. But I also want to talk on that 5% that you were talking about. The 5%, to me, and I like this is a question. This is an opinion and also a question. I like to bounce it off you three. Doesn't matter how much peer support you have, and I'm talking to everybody out there right now. It does not matter how much peer support you have. Does not matter who is your chaplain. Does not matter how much you have people to say call me, and you call them. You have to at some point or another change your daily activities for you to change the outcome. And the cliche saying, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, if your daily activity, and I'm literally throwing stuff out there, but if your daily activity involves waking up at a certain time every day, eating the same food every day, watching the same TV every day, watching the same hearing the same music every day, and you are in a state of depression, you're in a state where you're not healthy, and you keep on doing the same thing every day, does not matter who you have as a peer support, does not matter who you have as a chaplaincy, does not matter who you have to give a phone call to. You need to change something of that routine to change your mental well-being for the upcoming days. And then one little trickle will go into another trickle, and then you start tapping into the resources of make physical fitness or picking up a hobby, fishing, whatever the hell it is, talking to your chaplain, talking to the peer support, et cetera, et cetera. But and all of those together will hopefully lead to a change. But if that 5% that you were talking about, if you do not change something, it doesn't matter who you have, what you have in your pocket, it's still going to be a downward spiral.
Right.
Yeah,
that's 100% correct. There's people in our department that we haven't been able to help, and their issues, a lot of times, like we said, it's those compound issues off duty. It's not, we're finding out that it's not the 3 a.m. call with a dead baby anymore. Yes, that sucks and that weighs on you, and that is an issue. But what we're finding is it's the marital problems at home, it's the bankruptcy, it's not getting that promotion. Those are the issues. Those are the compound stressors that make that happen. And unfortunately, like Pablo said, sometimes it does not matter what resources you have, and you do lose good people sometimes to that. And that takes a strong department to be able to go through that and deal with that. But it's true. It's exactly right.
Yeah. And Jay, like you were saying earlier, you lost a good friend who quit the fire service, good friend of mine. And, you knew him a lot longer than me. Went to fire school with him, worked at Target together with him. So, you know, I mean, y'all went way deep. And man, if you would just take a minute and let's go through March 27th and tell us about that day and how it was going down. I know that you and I were scheduled to play basketball that evening over there in Creek, and just kind of bring us through that, man. And then from there, we can lead into how it changed the culture and how it changes training and just kind of start opening up a little bit.
Yeah. So the day started out, you know, obviously normal. We get off around 6 p.m. I was working duty crew, part-time job at Cypress Creek at the time. I was full-time in Pearland. And it was about 5:54, I think. It was about 6 minutes before shift change. And so we started packing our stuff up, and then call dropped. It was for a mutual aid fire down the street with one of our neighboring departments. And, you know, probably 50% of the time it's disregard, and 25% of the time it's something you hang around for, and another 25 it's actually something legit. So I liked my chances, so got on the truck, and I was riding the seat that day. I had, I think, 20 something years of experience in the back seat with me, and all combined we were around 50 something years of experience on the truck. So I mean, I was not worried about anything that I was going to face that day at all. Maybe ignorantly, but at that time in my career, I was not worried about anything that we were going to face. I had all the experience that I could ask for. So we started heading out, started going down the road. I see a big header, relay to the guys that we do actually have a burner. So we show up on scene. It's a 2-story apartment or a 3-story apartment complex. And the building that we were working in was an actual 2-story. So if you kind of set it up, it's 2-story and then 3 in the middle and then 2 on the side again. So it kind of builds up in the middle. So we arrived on scene, and from the jump, we were having some communication issues. We were on engine 24. Our placards, because we were duty crew, had a 26 on them. And then the incident commander thought we had said engine 25 when we arrived on location. So you can tell from that standpoint, we were already kind of behind the 8 ball. I didn't think anything of it, though. No big deal. So he said, hey, stretch a apartment lay 2.5 to the back, extend an 1 3/4 off of that. I need you to meet, I think it was engine 10 in the attic. They're putting a knockdown on the attic. And I said, okay, cool, good to go. We had visible fire through the roof. It had already self-vented. No big deal. So we start working our way to the rear of the structure. We're on the Charlie side. I meet up with the Charlie side division chief, and I tell him what our assignment was, just to recap, so he knows where we're at. We start laying off of that 2.5 with our 1 3/4. We start shucking hose. So the nozzleman, actually, he was a captain in the city of Houston at the time. He takes the nozzle and he starts flaking it up, going up to the 3rd floor. He gets up to the 3rd floor. He needs some slack. Inevitably, the hose line charges before we get to the top. So now it's a bitch to get up there. So now we're trying to hump this hose up 3 flights of stairs, and it's me and my best friend. And we're on the first landing. So we're on the 2nd story. And there's 2 apartments that go this way. So landing and then 2 apartments. And I looked at him, and he had said something to me like, hey, I need a little bit more hose. And when he said that, something fell down, and it was the plywood sheeting underneath the landing above us, and that hit him. And so I took him, and we kind of pulled together, and I went like this. I don't know, instinctively or what, but I pulled him this way, and we turned, and I was going to go back down the stairs backwards, and he was facing me. And he went ahead and man, I can't remember what he said to save my life, but the 2nd story landing and the stairs came down on both of us. So the landing, probably about close to 1,000 pounds of concrete came down on him, and then a whole concrete and steel stairwell came down on me. I was lucky enough; I was laying flat on the first level stairs, and he was not so lucky. It kind of caught him in a pretzel like, and he's about Chief Johnson size. So Chief Johnson can't do a pretzel very well, I don't think. But he's about Chief Johnson size. So he got caught up, and he was scrunched like this underneath this platform. And I was on the stairwell right below him. And, you know, I was talking to him the whole time. I was trying to communicate with him. There was a couple times where he had lost consciousness. his legs were burning because I guess he sat on some embers. And so his legs were burning pretty good. My radio got ripped out, couldn't radio for a mayday. I didn't even know if a mayday had been called yet or not. And I was kind of trapped with my right arm underneath me and my left arm was up, outreached. And so I was trying to scrape underneath my buddy's leg the best I could to try to get some of the embers out and trying to call his name. And every now and then he'd come to, and there was a lot of stuff going on being said at that time that I'm not really going to go into right now. But it was scary. Thought he was going to die. Thought he was dead for sure. Didn't know if I was or not. Laid there for a minute. We had 3 maydays go out. The division chief called a mayday, and then the engine crew that we were working with from our neighboring department called 2 maydays as well. Again, I didn't know that a mayday had been called or not because I didn't hear anything. But luckily enough, our nozzleman, his helmet and mask got ripped off. He rode down the collapse on the 3rd floor. He held onto the nozzle. He kept the nozzle the whole time, and he was able to turn around and kind of keep us cooled off a little bit because a lot of the embers and a lot of the whole apartment structure ripped from the sides of the building and came down. So needless to say, about, 5 minutes being in there, it seemed like a damn lifetime. The crews came to the backside, started digging through some of the crap, and turned the stairwell over eventually and lifted me up. And that's when I figured out that I had tore pretty much every ligament in my knee, and did a little barrel roll down the stairs, and then they carried me to the ambulance. And that was pretty much it, man. So it was intense for a little bit there.
Yeah, it's definitely not just pretty much it, man. That's a catastrophic event. I mean, it's it's something that I think no fireman ever wants to experience. And, I think every fireman there that day is just grateful that you and your buddy were spared and able to move on and live on. And, our buddy has a beautiful family back home with a lot of kids and is living a good life. And you've been able to come, to where you are today and succeed. And so with all the bad things, when you struggle through, the good things happen,
That's right.
So I think it's really good, man. And for me, it was creepy, man. I mean, I know I told you this and we've talked about it several times, but watching that fire on the news and hearing there was a mayday and knowing that you were working and all I did was call you and you didn't answer. I told my wife, I told Lauren, I said, Corthell's, he's got to be the one that's hurt. And I said, because Jay always has his phone. Like even now, Jay always has his phone. So I said, I know, like if he could answer it, he would. And then when I got the call from your dad, man, I mean, that brought me down to my knees, man. I mean, it was something that I'll never forget. And that's why I always make sure that you always remember, man, that I'm glad that God chose you that day on March 27th. So I'm just grateful, man. Very thankful.
I appreciate that, brother.
But, from here, I mean, so how does this, you go through that, right, and you recover. And so how does that go to changing the culture of the Side Creek Fire Department? How does that go to changing the culture that you bring inside the firehouse, not only from like a training aspect and how do we try to see these signs or symptoms, or how do we pre-plan these buildings and recognize these style staircases versus the cultural side of things of, hey, I went through this and I survived and I'm standing tall today, and it's okay to reach out for help and admit that you might need to talk to somebody.
Yeah. So on the actual like training operational side of things, the things that we did post incident, our leadership command staff went back to the same apartment building. They were looking at other stairwells and realized that the steel had been rusted through on, I think they said 30-something% of the buildings. And so they took a bunch of pictures and they reported it to Harris County Fire Marshal's office. And it basically kicked off a campaign for a lot of Northwest departments to look at the integrity of stairwells within their apartment buildings. And generally that's somewhat of a safe haven. If you open an apartment complex door or apartment unit door and, it's blowing and going, you should be able to shut that door, regroup on that stairwell and get ready and get back in that fight. When you don't have that avenue as a firefighter, it really handcuffs you. So making sure that we have safe areas that we can regroup and reconvene when we need to do our job is a big deal. I believe they also found several stairwells that had been complained on by residents as well. Just walking up with groceries, the stairs would bounce because they're completely disconnected at the base. And the only thing that's holding them on is the top bolts that hold on to these stairwells. So it was pretty crazy and eye-opening to see. I know it kicked off another campaign in Pearland too. A lot of the fire marshals went out and checked the stairwells in there. So I would say probably the biggest thing and probably the easiest thing that we can do is when we're pre-planning our areas and we go to our target hazards or our apartment complexes or wherever we go, always look at the stairwell. Don't just take it for granted. That's one thing that I did. And now obviously I can't go to a stairwell and not look at it and be like, all right, that thing looks good. We're good.
Right.
And of course I lived in an apartment right after the injury and I lived on the first floor. So I had to walk past a staircase every night I'd come home. So that was always fun to deal with. But as far as that goes, I would say that's the easiest thing is to look at the stairwells and look at the safe havens that are sometimes taken for granted when you're doing your pre-plans and taps and all that. Culturally, though, I think that the biggest thing that changed in me was I realized how much I loved this job. I knew it when I got out of the Marine Corps and I came right back to the job, but there wasn't really anyone in my corner when I came back from my job that was a firefighter. I got back into it and I picked up like no one's business, and it was good. Met up with old friends, so on and so forth. But when I got injured, I had the Pearland Union on board with me. I had Pearland firefighters, command staff calling me. I had my brothers from Cypress Creek. I had a meal train going. I had my buddies' wives. I mean, everyone was bringing me food. And it just made me realize that when you go down with an ACL and you're an accountant, you know what I'm saying? Like people don't care about you. You know what I mean? But when you go down and you're a brother, that's it, man. Like people are going to take care of you. And it almost made me feel bad because I wanted to get back and I wanted to start giving to people. The guys that covered my shifts for me with no paybacks, they're like, hey man, don't worry about it. We got you. Stuff like that where I wouldn't have to take sick time. Just beautiful, the way it all played out. And so it's somewhat of a me giving back to be able to do this for the fire service.
Sure, man.
I got a question there. If you don't mind, walk me through from you how it might have changed, if any, the training division in your department as far as like you said you little things, right? So you said you lost your radio on the way down.
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, has anything changed in the department as far as like from your I think that the best guys that ever teach anything have literally teach it from personal experience. That is right. You cannot replicate that, duplicate that. So my question is, do you talk about now how to wear a radio? Do you talk about walk me through the when you're underneath that pile, pardon that word, right? Considering what's going on, but when you're underneath that collapse right there, are you cognizant of what's going on? Are you able to call your mayday? If you had a radio, are you able to call your mayday? Do you realize what's going on? Do you know how? Can you reach your tools? Are you changing your tools now because you can't reach them? Et cetera, et cetera. So can you walk me through any of that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I would describe how it felt was when growing up, if you were ever held down by your dad and like tickled or kind of tortured or whatever, that's what it felt like on the stairwell. Like I could not move it. And so the way I was stuck, I was just stuck. And the way I wear my radio now is different than how I wore my radio before. If I'm in my gear, I usually have my cord wrapped around my radio. It's down in here. So I have very little actual things to get caught. I used to wear it here, and then the cord would go over here, and I'd clip it right here to my lapel. Now it's actually all in one pocket, and it sits right here, and the cord is completely stuffed in between there, if that makes any sense. That way there's less cord that's sticking out to get wrapped up in something and get ripped out, because that's what they think happened. They know I had my radio on me because I was talking on it. And then when they found me, I did not have it, and it was never recovered. So they don't know what happened to it, where it went, nothing. So it's just kind of one of those things. It was weird. As far as the tools, it didn't matter what, I hate to say this, but it didn't matter what tool I would have had on me at that time, because the way I was pinned. I legit had all the way to the stairs and myself underneath this with this arm. And I just had this arm that was free, but I couldn't have gone down to my legs or to my waist or anything. The only thing I could have gone is gone up. So I couldn't have reached anything no matter how I had my tools. And at that point in time, I don't think any tool that I would have been able to carry as a personal tool would have gotten me out of that situation. What was the other question you had? Oh, was I cognizant what was going on?
Yeah, like as far as like, were you able to, if let's just say for argument's sake, you would have had your radio on you, were you able to call your own mayday, or you were just, or were you out of it?
Yeah, I would have been able to call my own mayday. It was a little dicey there at first. When they say like you revert back to your training, you know BS, revert back to your training. I mean, training day one in the academy. The way I was laying on my SCBA hose, and I was trying to look up because that's where my buddy was. So as I was trying to look up, the hose is stuck, so the mask is coming off my face. I'm losing my seal, and air is shooting out everywhere. And so I'm panicking, right, for probably the first 10 seconds or so. Because one, I don't know where my buddy is. He's not talking to me. Two, I have a hose underneath me, and I can't lift up to free the hose out so I can move my head around. The stairs are on the back part of my helmet on the brim, and so I can't move my head up very well, but I can just move my face up to break the seal. So I was trying to reach for my radio. I had this hand underneath me. I was trying to reach for my radio, and I couldn't feel anything. And then a little panic set in. And so then I started trying to scream for my buddy to call a mayday. He wasn't responding, right? And so I just laid there and kind of realized, hey, I'm stuck. I don't know how long I'm going to be stuck, because I don't know what's on top of me at this point, right? I just know that there was I thought the whole building came in on me, and not just the stairwell area and the walls. So I sat there and I reverted back to my day one training, and I relaxed my breathing. I realized that I'm going to need to conserve some air if I'm going to, make it out of this thing. I mean, granted, I was outside technically because I was in a stairwell, but nonetheless, I don't know what else is going to come down on top of me, or how extensive this recovery is going to be. So yeah, I mean, there was a lot of panic in probably the first 10, 15 seconds or so, because you're trying to figure out what the hell just happened. But after that, when they say you revert back to your training, I don't know if I'm speaking for most, but for me, it's 100% correct. And having the impact that I'm able to have at the fire academy when I'm teaching these guys SCBA and skip breathing and relaxing their breathing and not to panic, and being able to tell them, hey, this is a real life thing that you will use eventually. I hope not, but you'll have the skill, right? So I was definitely aware of what was going on.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Something I took from that real quick is the fact that you were able to reach, at least you were able to reach this area right here, which goes back to one of the hosts on the show, Robbie. Rob. Rob always preaches the fact that he has his life safety stuff. Anything that is life safety for him, with his data-driven knowledge, experience-driven knowledge, data-driven knowledge, that a lot of the stuff is here on the left-hand side where he can reach it. Radio and pair of cutters in case he has to cut his way out of something. Obviously, I know in that situation you weren't going to be able to cut yourself out. But the fact that you just said right there that you couldn't reach your pockets, but you could reach this little general area right here, to me, just drives in that fact of what Robbie teaches.
That's right, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he believes. I believe he calls it the high action area, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because he keeps his cutters in his pocket with a golf ball, and he has his radio, and everything is right here from your nose down to your chest.
Yeah. No, it's great to hear. Good information on that.
That's true. So, Jason, you go through that, and you have all these lessons learned, and you're here tonight, preaching about them. So, how do you go back as a chief? How do you go back to Cy Creek and you say, listen, guys, like, we're going to do this training today, and here's why we're going to do it, because this is what This is what I went through. And how do you start instilling that culture of understanding that that day you had, quote unquote, the perfect day with all the experience you needed. You got to work out. Back then you're eating bags of sweet peppers, right? So you got to eat your peppers and you got to do
Times have changed, brother. Times have changed.
You got to do everything that you wanted to do, and then this happened. So how do you instill that culture on your shift there in Pearland, Side Creek, but more importantly throughout the fire department?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, from the start, I always felt like I had somewhat of a story to tell. I felt like I was in debt to the fire service for everything that it did for me, but it only got more powerful as I started my recovery. And as I felt more and more of the brotherhood push in on me in the most positive way possible, I felt like, man, the least I can do is give a lesson back to these people. And the best thing that I found out was that people wanted to hear it. So, I mean, just kudos to the fire service in general for people being able to, pick my mind respectively, understanding that, hey, these things take time and there's times I do want to talk about it and times I don't want to talk about it. Those times start shifting more and more as time moves on. You get more comfortable talking about it. But I was on Chief Gasaway's situational awareness podcast. I was his 55th episode, I think. And I mean, that was a week after my surgery. And we just got on and we got straight into it. And I mean, that stems back from, I think, the ambulance. When I was talking to my buddy, I told him, I was like, man, like, we just survived some real shit, dude. I was like, we can use this, we can use this and we can make sure that nobody else has to go through this. And if they do, they know what to do, or they have the tools to do so. And so, you ask, how did I do it? I think just diving into it and just understanding that I'm accepting of the fact that something bad happened despite all the best efforts and all the good things and things that went right. I'm telling you right now, man, we had the best apartment lay stretch we could have had. We had the best hose stretch we had, besides the line getting charged a little early. We had the experience. We had ladders in place. We had crews in the places that they needed to be, all kinds of stuff, And I mean, even after the incident, people were like, "Well, would you have sent somebody into that building?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I would have." I said, it was good. I said, "How often do you hear about an apartment stairwell collapsing on firefighters?" I said, "It was a freak accident. It sucked. And it didn't matter what we did right or what we did wrong." But I mean, to answer your question, man, it's just diving in. And just diving in and accepting it and understanding that there is a debt to be paid to the fire service when something like that happens. And, I considered it my responsibility to be able to give back in that sense. When I talk to my shift about it, when I talk to other people about it, they are eager to learn. They ask questions. They want to know more. And that to me lets me know that they're invested.
Right. That's beautiful, man. I love that. It's a debt to be paid to the fire service. I mean, that's wonderful. Wonderful. I mean, but like Herb and Pablo, like y'all teach advanced firefighter survival and NRC. I mean, like, is this type of situations that y'all cover in your class, or is this stuff that y'all teach firefighters on different methods on how to get out?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily maybe the stair collapse, but we teach them different skills to assist when they are pinned. And one of the things that Rob harps on is he has a tool on his coat pocket on his left side, and then he has a set of cutters on his right side in his pants pocket. So depending wherever he's pinned, he's going to be able to capture and get a tool out of there. Chad Small in the chat asked, what was the use of the golf ball? So the reason why we put the golf ball and we attach them on our tools is when you're sitting there and you have your bunker gloves on, you literally have oven mitts on. I don't care. You got kangaroo skin, baby foreskin, whatever the case, high-tech gloves that are out there right now, you still are walking around with oven mitts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have dexterity whatsoever in your gloves. So attaching a golf ball on your tool, now I can literally grab that golf ball, pull, and my tool is right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it just gives me a place to grab. It's a quick means of getting my tool that I need. So to answer your question, Chad, that's the reason why we attach a golf ball on our tools.
And Jason, do you think that would have been a big help that day if you would have had something up there? Could you have reached it, you think?
Yeah, but like I said, I mean, I don't think any personal tool at that point would have assisted me in that exact incident. I'm not saying don't do it. Having something on me is something that's obviously always of importance, but I just think in that incident, it wouldn't have made a difference one way or another. But I do carry tools on me, and I do carry tools that have golf balls attached to them.
There you go.
Well, and the reality is, I mean, 1,000+ pounds of concrete, man, you're not moving that.
No.
Right.
It doesn't matter what tools you have on, you're not moving that. That's an actual operation now to actually move it. So thank God you're here, man, and thank you for sharing the story, man. This has been phenomenal. My phone's blowing up as we speak right now, and people are enjoying it. So thank you once again.
Of course, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Pablo, what when you guys are doing your surge class and stuff like that, what are some of the tools that you guys are telling the guys to maybe bring or maybe to make them think outside the box as well?
Man, that's a great question. Phenomenal question. I do. How do I say this in a nice way? I'm very far from a gimmick fireman. I like to know my stuff that I have on me that will work. I was once in a classroom setting, and we're doing a search drill, and I had someone say, "Oh, well, you could also tie a 2-to-1 and start dragging right here," and I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not gonna be a dick to someone in the middle of a classroom, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, bro, you ever been inside of a structure fire? Fucking 2-to-1, like you get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. So I carry very simple tools. A Prusix. I carry 2 Prusix, in which I use just in case I have to wrap around I carry my own truck belt in case I have to wrap around my aerial. Basic webbing, but the webbing doesn't come out. I'm not tying webbing in the middle of a structure fire. That shit ain't happening. Like the most out of the gimmick that you're gonna get me is a Prusix. Because that's just a simple girth hitch around some ankles or whatever. We when I mean Sean Duffy and myself and the rest of the NRC guys, Greg, Robbie, Irby, we teach Dave McCauley, all these guys. We teach down and dirty drags. We teach shit that's gonna like this is how you're gonna find someone in a smoke-filled environment, how you're gonna drag them out, how you're gonna use body mechanics, body leverage to drag someone out, how to use how to do quick packaging of the air pack, like stuff like that, like quick down dirty 10-15 foot drags, get to a place of refuge, and then start calling maydays out there, but I'm very, very far from a gimmick fireman. I like to teach physical fitness and understanding your fitness levels, and I do not mince any words. It is what it is. There's different levels of talent to this shit. If you don't think that if you're gonna wake up one day and like after years of fucking sitting in a recliner and not doing a damn thing, you're just gonna wake up one day and go save a brother fireman or a sister fireman, you're out of your fucking mind, so right. And then all of a sudden be like, oh, we're I've heard people on aerials talking about like, oh, my go-to for a down fireman, like second floor or something like that is going to be a Stokes basket. I'm like, oh shit, you've never trained outside of a Conex box. No shit. That's awesome. Good for you. Because people don't ever take into consideration the human element of the job. You have to take into consideration what happens when I don't care who you are, when you're on your way to a call, your heart rate's already sitting at 110. You could be a fitness model or someone that's overweight. It does not matter. Your heart rate's going to be 110, and that's without shit going wrong. All of a sudden, add a little bit of heat, a little bit of smoke. Shit goes wrong. Yeah, okay. Let me know how that's going to work out. So, we harp on this when we teach, which is just understanding your body, understanding what you could do physically, understanding how to work within that gray area, you know, like between that area between red and black. Can you extend your red heart rate into that gray area, so you could basically prolong that working heart rate for a longer period of time? So to answer the question, I know I went into a long soapbox, but to answer the question directly, I teach and we teach very down and dirty, like this is what happens in structure fires, and this is how we're going to hopefully gonna go get someone out.
Yep, 100%.
Well, and it's to kind of reiterate off of what you were saying with the gimmick firemen, we can blame a lot of that on social media as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So you can look at on Facebook, you can look on Instagram. There's a ton of different sites that are teaching you a bunch of gimmick shit.
Yeah.
And anybody that has a slight bit of knowledge in this game can see that's bullshit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And that's the reality of it. And I'm not going to mince any words. You have to sit there and understand that you got to make sure that every tool that you're carrying has a function.
Yes.
Yep.
It doesn't need to be some powder coated, super lightweight aluminum fucking great tool that they stamped and put a cool little subdued fire logo on there or whatever the case may be. Make sure whatever tool you're carrying has a function.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't have a function, it's fucking pointless. There's no reason to carry it. And I see that in the younger generation that is coming up. They either are one or two ways. They have all their pockets are packed to the brim full of tools, or they have no fucking tools.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And there's no fucking like in between. And then all the tools that they have in their pocket, they can't tell you what they do.
Yep.
Right.
Well, I saw it on Facebook, and the guy in this cool Facebook group told me that this tool is amazing. Okay, but where did this guy come from?
Right.
Has he fought anything else besides a Connex box fire with pallets in it? Probably not.
Yeah.
So understanding what tools you're carrying and why you carry them. And that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I can harp on is why are you carrying it?
Right.
And that's the thing. And to Chief's point, it didn't matter what tool that Chief had on him that day. No hand tool in the world is going to move all the weight that was on him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit, Chief. Myself, Pablo, and Chief Johnson, we're very fortunate enough to be able to travel around the U.S. and teach. I've seen different ways that guys in different parts of the U.S. carry their radios. So you guys carry your radio without a harness, without a radio strap inside your radio pocket? Is that cultural for you guys?
Correct.
Okay. And then some departments are wearing their radio outside of their coat.
Mm-hmm.
And just a radio strap.
Mm-hmm.
And like for my department, we wear our radio strap underneath our coat.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel that maybe if you would have had your radio on a radio strap underneath your coat, do you think maybe it potentially could have stayed on you or vice versa?
Yeah, I think without a doubt. I mean, it could have stayed on me. Part of the issue with some of that is the ability to get out and where the antenna placement is and so on and so forth, and go into all kinds of different studies on that too. And I'm sure that there's data and you guys have looked at that as well. But for our department, that's pretty standard, is to wear it on the exterior of your coat. There's no regulation that says you can't have a radio strap, but for our department, it's very frowned upon to put anything over the top of an antenna. So,
No,
Go ahead, Rick. Go ahead.
No, and that's just something that out of everywhere that I go, that is the one biggest thing that I see. Nobody has a rhyme or reason of why they're wearing it that way.
Right.
I can tell you for my department, we wear it under our bunker coat, and the reason being is you're keeping, per se, your lifeline underneath your coat, away from the heat, keeping it close to your body, not being hung up, not the potential of losing it, anything like that. That's the reason why we carry it that way. But our neighboring department, their whole culture is they wear it outside.
Yeah.
So
I think, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Had I that day worn a strap and it been underneath my coat, I would have been able to get to my microphone like it was second nature. I had that hand right here. I was ready. I mean, I grabbed my hose. I grabbed my regulator hose. That's how I knew I was on it, because I was trying to pull it. So I know I could have grabbed the mic had I had it.
Hey, also, and random thought on that, by the way, just to piggyback on that, because I wear the same way that Palm Beach wears it, I'm assuming, which is underneath. I wear it underneath when I bring out my lapel mic right underneath, and I clip it on my left hand side. Yep. Something I've been doing for years. Also, just a random thought on that, and for everybody listening out there, I've got it into for years. I've been doing it now, where when I check off my equipment in the morning, I'm talking about my SCBA and my radio. I literally turn on my radio every morning to see how the battery's doing, et cetera, et cetera. Sure. I do it with my oven mitts on.
There you go.
Every morning. Like I don't get crazy. It's not like I'm not in full gear doing burpees outside at fucking 7 o'clock in the morning. Don't get me wrong. But check off the shit that you could bear. Check off the shit that's motor skills with your oven mitts on. Too many people get very, very comfortable in checking off their SCBA and the radio year after year after year with their little fingers. But these little fingers are not going to be fucking exposed during a structure fire. You're going to have oven mitts on. So just get used to it. Just get used to the changing of the channel and stuff like that. It's a very simple thing you can do in the mornings. Just throw on your oven mitt and just check off your SCBA and your radio.
100%. Yeah, 100%. You know, and to like, we'll go back a little bit to what you were talking about at first, Pablo, about how you train and being prepared for the moment and everything. The way I look at it is like this, like Chief Reinwald says it all the time, like on the teaching circuit, right? You have to be weight to be invited to the table, right? There's a high table, and there's no easy way to get to that high table. You have to grind. You have to be a good person. You have to do what's right all the time to get there. Well, for me in the fire service, right, if you look at the operational side of things, that high table, that invitation is when that citizen or that brother, that sister needs you the most. When somebody says, I need help, is that you're able to perform quickly, efficiently, professionally, and you are able to go in there and be aggressive and put the citizens first and put your brothers and sisters on the line before you, and you're able to perform at that high level. And the only way that you're going to get that invitation and be able to meet that invitation and sit at that table is if you perform or train every day inside and out on your tool placement and where you have it on your bunker gear, and what tools do you carry, and do they have a function, and do you know their function, down to it. You know, you were talking the last time we were on here, Pablo, about ladders, how you throw ladders every day, right? And discipline over motivation. And I know without a doubt, just from hearing you talk, like when you're invited to that high table on an operational fire ground, you're going to be able to perform, and you're going to give it an all-out effort. And that's what we have to remind ourselves of, is that as fun as this job is, and as great as it is, and as rewarding as it is, we still have to prepare for that Super Bowl moment. We have to prepare for that moment where everything that we have within our soul is given to save the life of somebody else, whether it be a citizen, a brother, or a sister. You know, because it's what I tell Corthell. I think you were there that last year at Fire Academy. I tell the cadets, like, you have to learn to push yourself to exhaustion in every aspect of the job, from studying for promotion to working out to your training. Because at the end of the day, when you are trapped in that rubble and your pass alarm is going off and your face mask is sucking to your face, I want to know that you're pushing yourself to exhaustion to get out. But not only that, I want you to know in the back of your mind that you have crews coming and pushing themselves to exhaustion to come get you. And you have to be prepared for 100%. That moment.
100%. And I God forbid, I don't know how I'm going to react in a collapse. Look, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I've never been in a situation like that. So this is what I'm going to tell you, though. This is something that I talk a lot with Herb, with Robbie, with Greg, and I've said it a couple times. You could train your mind to legitimately think you're going to a fire or you're doing something shitty every single day. So like if you have, for example, if you have a cascade at your firehouse, if you have a cascade system at your firehouse, and you're not on an SCBA, and obviously call pending. I'm not, hey, my name is Pablo General. I'm not stupid. My firehouse runs 20 fucking calls a day. Yeah, it is what it is. I get it. But call pending. If you have a cascade at your firehouse and you are when allowed, you're not putting that bottle to your face and sucking it down, that mask to your face and sucking it down, you're doing something wrong, man. Like, you can legitimately train your mind to be like, I've been here before. I've sucked this down. I understand how much time I have left. I understand exactly what happens when the bell goes off, and maybe I can relax a little bit. I understand what happens when the bell goes off, and I keep working because I've been here every day. I do it. I do it every other shift at least. You know, like, I've been here. I've trained my mind. The mind has no idea. The ladder, you know, we carry alkalites. My 24-foot extension weighs 75 pounds. My body has no fucking clue whether I'm throwing that motherfucker at 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. My body has no fucking clue whether the building is on fire or the building is not on fire. My body just knows that it's throwing a fucking 75-pound ladder. It is what it is. You can train your mind to legitimately think you're going to a fire or you're doing something strenuous every day. So when and if you get, God forbid, to that situation, you could just be like, I've been here. Hold on, I've been here, because like the chief said, you fall back to that lower level of training, you know. But if your lower level of training has been like, hey, I've thrown this fucking ladder, you know, 100 times in the last, you know, couple of months, then I'm like, oh, hold on, it's just one more ladder throw. Literally, that's what it becomes. One more ladder throw. That's, you know, same thing with the stress inoculation, you know. And I know Basil's on right now. Stress inoculation, brother. I know it's huge on with you. Like, you know, it's one more time that you're just sucking your mask down. That's all it is. Understanding how much your body and your mind could handle.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and it comes down to attention to detail, right? And knowing each aspect of each tool that you have and what you're training on. You know, like Corthell, I mean, you know, what did we do when you were driving me back in the day? How did I get y'all to pay attention to detail on that pumper?
You had to count the grease ports underneath on the axle. That's
right. Right. I wanted to know how many grease ports were on that bumper. Right. But not only that, like when we would train Lemons or when we were training Callan, it was, hey, I want you to sit here in this driver's seat and I want you to go through this VMUX screen and I want you to learn everything about this truck. Everything. I want you to know the engine dimensions and the horsepower, and I want you to know everything about it, because if you're paying that much, if we're training you to pay that attention to detail, that much attention to detail, then I know that when you pull a 24-foot extension ladder, that you're going to automatically think 6 rungs back is the midpoint. That you're automatically going to think back that on 28, 7 rungs is the midpoint. You're going to know where to shoulder that ladder so you can quickly and efficiently throw that ladder, right? And you're going to know what tool is needed where, right? And you're going to know that how to properly use the Halligan on a 4th Century and how to remove burglar bars and whatnot. Look, Lemons just commented 23 grease ports on engine 5. So see, he still remembers, and that's from 2011. So, you know, it's when you pay that much attention to detail, man, you're able to perform at a higher level.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, I got a question real quick for you. After you came back and you got back with rehab and you got back on the line,
mm-hmm.
Did anything change for you per se as a firefighter, fire officer? Did anything change emotionally, mentally? Did the way that you go to the firehouse, were you scared at all? Anything along those lines? Because I myself have not been in a collapse. Pablo has not been. So was there anything that you saw or maybe experienced that was different than prior to that day?
Man, I was excited. As crazy as it sounds, I was so ready to get back into the firehouse and so ready to get back to the guys. It was just brutal to be out. I'm not gonna lie, it was nice for like a couple weeks to chill and like still get paid from both jobs. But you just miss it, man. It's the weirdest thing. And it's hard to explain. Again, I'll go back to an attorney. You know, when an attorney gets 5 months off of work, they're not like, damn, like I cannot wait to go back. For me, it was like that 100%. One thing that's helped me, obviously the Marine Corps instilled a great amount of discipline within me, and not a lot of excuse making. I've been through the ringer The collapse just kind of added another notch in the belt. I don't use it as bravado, but I do take it as I use it as a sense of, I've been there, and so when these, cadets are so impressionable, and I have the ability to talk to them, and this is why we do this, and this is how we do this, and I'm able to do it from experience. It warms my heart, and I was going to say before we moved on a little bit, I almost look at the collapse as somewhat of a, I don't want to say a blessing, but it kind of was, in the sense that I got to take this experience, and not a lot of people got to, and I got to do what I said I was always going to do for a brother or sister firefighter, and that is stay with them until we both get pulled out. And not a lot of people get to do that. They say it, and it's great to say, but the fact and the opportunity that I did. So what I took away from it, of course, was a little bit of more discipline that was instilled in me. Like, I don't give a fuck what your excuse is. Like, you're not stuck underneath a damn concrete slab. Get your ass up. Let's go. We're moving, and that happens almost daily when I'm teaching at the academy. But also just more of a passion for the fire service. It made me love the fire service so much more than what I already thought that I could.
Now, did it change any way that you were training, or certain things that you maybe implemented in your training program?
No, I mean, at that point in time, I was a driver in Pearland, and I was a lieutenant on the duty crew part-time at Cypress Creek. So I didn't have so much of an effect, except for what we talked about as far as what we did after the incident with the command staff going to the apartment complexes and the pre-incident plans. But I did have a lot of opportunities to be able to present. And that's what I thought was probably the most impactful thing, was to share exactly what happened in great detail. So people could kind of take away from it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, he said that he reverted back to his training. So maybe this training session, I should listen to the entire hour and not go to the bathroom for 15 minutes and fall asleep for the other 45, So I'm hoping that just by doing that, there's a little bit more impactful thing. But I mean, I'll say this, had the collapse not been as catastrophic or heavy as it was, and I was able to manage to either A, make it to my buddy, or B, self-extricate, or, find some other goal besides someone having to come rescue my big ass. I would have taken away so much more and been able to relay so much more information. Like, look, this happened and this is how I got out of it. But the fact of the matter is I didn't. And so what I would say is this: the best training you can do is to pre-plan and look at the damn stairwells. As minuscule as it sounds, it's something that I do, and I do it now because I experienced it. Now, I'm not saying, when you show up at 3 a.m. and you have a ripping house fire or a ripping apartment fire, that you sit there and inspect each stairwell before you climb them. That's not feasible, right? But also, when you're sitting there and you're playing Xbox for 3 hours, and you could have gone out there and looked at that apartment complex that's in your territory, and it was probably built in the 60s or 70s, and some of the construction might be deteriorating. And instead of going out there and just wondering, hey, I wonder if that building is going to hold up when it catches on fire, and looking at it, that's something that I would say should be implemented in training for sure.
Yeah, because if I remember right, you told me that stairwell was only held by 6 bolts, right? 3 up top,
Correct.
3 at the bottom.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and it was like 14 steps of concrete, right, all the way up.
Correct.
So, I mean, when you look at that and you're thinking about what those bolts have been drilled into, and then the way wood swells and shrinks and ages, and it's a huge, I guess you could call it hole in our training and in pre-planning, because it's something that until you went through what you went through with your event, I never even looked at it as a lieutenant. Because you're right, it's our safe haven. We know that if that apartment's ripping, when you shut that door, we can gather and regroup and then go in and make the push. But you never think about your safe haven failing you. And I think that's a huge takeaway for tonight for everybody listening, is that even plan for your safe havens to fail.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's my fire chief even said, he said, hey, you can do everything right and something in this business can still go catastrophically wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. Damn right. Yeah, I had a good officer of mine, Scott Ramage. He works for Marion County, and we tried to trench a roof a handful of years back, and we just couldn't. It is what it is. We couldn't. And I remember him saying a phrase that stuck with me to this day. He's like, Pablo, there's some roofs that are not meant to be cut. There's some fires that are just you're not going to push into.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
So true.
Yeah, you're right. So true. So such a simple concept. So true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, Jason, from here, right? I mean, you go through this and everything's going good for you. And you're here now, right? 2021, we're several years later. I mean, huge success and a beautiful family back home. And how do you take all of this, everything that we've talked about, right? We've been on the air for an hour and a half. So how do you take all of this and how do you turn that into a leadership style for your fire department? How do you go to your shift every day and be the leader that you want to be based off the events that you've gone through in your career, especially this one?
Yeah, so I mean, just staying involved in the fire service and not giving up on it, even though that you got smashed by a staircase. Understanding that with a traumatic event like that, I listened to Dr. David Griffin, who's with Charleston, and I've actually had the privilege of listening to him like 3 times. But the latest conference I went to, he spoke about post-traumatic growth. And as there is with post-traumatic stress syndrome, there's also post-traumatic growth. And I think that's something that I took away from it. And I brought it back to my partner who's helped me develop the Wellness and Fitness Initiative, Liz. And I spoke with her and I said, I want to do something with this. I want to do something with post-traumatic growth. And I wanted to basically expand on whatever, Dr. Griffin already did. And I'm like, I can't because it was done really well. So I'm just going to show it. I'm going to put myself into a program. I'm going to develop a program that can affect other people instead of talking about and just recapping what Griffin said. I'm going to go back and I'm going to build a program for this department. And so that's what I did. I went back, like I said in the beginning of this episode, I went back and I literally built this program from the ground up, and it would be nothing without my command staff. Mm-hmm. My fire chief has told me since day one, it's yours, take the reins, go with it. Anything that I tell him, hey, we got to do this, this, and this. Okay, cool, go with it. You got it. Okay, cool. And that's all it is. And he trusts me 100% with this program. And that wasn't born overnight. I mean, that took time because he does hold the department to a very high standard. Mm-hmm. He's a great man in general, but he holds the department to a high standard. And so for him to give me the reins to essentially taking care of this baby of his in the most vulnerable sense possible was really a privilege. It still is to be able to develop these programs. So that's where I took everything from this day. I mean, I started studying a lot about mental wellness and mental health and how it affects first responders and PTSD and depression, anxiety, all that crap that we all go through. And in that, I found that I experienced it, that I had it. I mean, I was a ball of anxious nastiness, mm-hmm. And I went to the doctor. I got fixed up. I got put on some good meds, and I'm balanced out now. I feel good. I got back in the gym. To Pablo's point, I think mental wellness and physical fitness is literally hand in hand. And so I didn't even know it before, but I had set the foundation. I took the low hanging fruit, right? Let's just get some basic workout equipment and just put it in the stations for the guys. Okay. Let's just do that first. Okay. And then let's develop a wellness and fitness initiative. And then let's work on mental health. And it all fell into place. And it wasn't to my credit. It literally just kind of fell that way, by the grace of God. So that's where we're at now.
So in your fire department, right, you're the highest operational officer, right?
Correct.
So like as a district chief, how do you go into the fire station? How do you get that buy-in? Like you've developed all those programs, you've initiated all the stuff within your fire department, but it still takes a buy-in from the guys and girls that work under you, right, to be able to make it a success. So how do you, I mean, I know we have a lot of listeners out there right now that are really, peer support is starting to become really popular, and it's new, but a lot of people want to know how to do it. So how do you get that buy-in? What points, tips, tricks do you have to share with everyone?
Buy-in for for mental wellness in the fire service is actually becoming easier, which is a great thing. I mean, as early as 5, maybe even 10 years ago, you couldn't even speak the word sometimes to some people. Now I think people are a little bit more open to it. The way that I got buy-in was to approach my company officers. Company officers are like sergeants in the military. They're the backbone of the fire service. I don't care what you say. Those company officers are the most important people that you have.
Yeah, they're your golden tickets.
They're it. They're it. They can screw you, or they can be part of your success. And so they set the tone. You know, if the low guy on the totem pole comes in and he's, you know, a formidable person, and that captain's like, screw mental wellness, it's for, you know, a bunch of little sissies and all this stuff, that's what they're going to believe, and they're not going to pursue that. And so my first goal was to go to the company officers and pose ideas to them and get them involved in the process. Say, hey, look, this is what I'm thinking about, you know, X, Y, and Z. What do you think? Well, I think it's bullshit. Well, why do you think it's bullshit? Because of this, this, and this. Okay, well, how would you change it? And empower them to be part of the process, because then they have ownership over it, right? And they don't want to see something that they've put ownership into fail, right?
Right.
And it's not a trick. I'm not pulling the wool over their eyes. I'm actually implementing these things that they're suggesting to me, because that's what works. I always tell my guys, and this isn't just mental wellness, this is just in general. If you come to me with a problem and a solution, we're going to explore it. We're going to work it together. And if it fails, we're going to fail together. And if it's a success, we're going to succeed together. But we're going to do it together, right? And it was the same way with this process. It was a little bit more arduous with the implementing of our embedded counselors. That was met with a lot of resistance at first. It was like, who is this crazy lady in here, and why is she so quiet and awkward? And they tried to like out awkward her and not talk to her. And I'm like, she already knows what you're thinking. You know, I'm like joking with them, you know, and all this stuff about a counselor. But they actually came around to her, and man, they love when Michelle stops by. I would say a good majority of the folks do. So awesome. we embedded a counselor within our stations, and she does stations rounds. She goes around to each shift. She does every other day. And it's awesome, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so, you know, with Herb and Pablo, I mean, like, you got a company officer and a tailboard firefighter. So how do y'all take peer support? Like, what does it mean to y'all, or how does your fire department implement it?
So in my department, we have peer support groups. We have the CISM, all that stuff. After a bad call, it's on all of us. Hey, you good? You need to talk? Don't need to talk? Everything all right? Hey, if not, let's go out of service. We're going to handle this. There's help out there. I can tell you, for being in the fire service for right at 18 years now, it's a lot different. It's a lot more acceptable. You're not looked at as you're a pussy because you want to talk to somebody. I do feel that it is important. And you know what? And Chief hit on it perfectly. It's not necessarily that call at 3:00 in the morning. It's not all these so-called bad calls that you're running on. A lot of times it's life.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, at least the culture within a lot of fire departments is, it's easier to be negative to each other just because that's the way we bust each other's balls. But sometimes, especially in the company officer standpoint, and I know some of my guys are listening, and I'm sure they'll chime in and tell you, like, I ask my guys all the time, are you good? And if you don't want to tell me, you don't have to tell me. but understand that, hey, you want to talk? Hey, listen, I'll take this truck out of service right now. We'll talk for hours.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone else will run the calls, but you're not shit to me if your head's not right. And you have to make sure that whatever you're doing is not hindering everything else. And we all like to say, well, you got to be 100% ready in the fire service, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. I agree with all that. But at the end of the day, you're still going to get off shift. You're going to go home. And you might be dealing with a hell of a lot of shit at home. Yep. And you're bringing it back to the firehouse. And guess what? Now add those calls onto your issues from home.
Yep.
So I can tell you, I've dealt with it. I've talked to Chief Johnson numerous times on the phone. I'm going through stuff right now with my family. I mean, everyone that listens to the podcast knows about my sister. My sister's my best friend. So I can tell you honestly that when I first found out, I was hitting the bottle hard. And it took Rob and talking to Chief Johnson and stuff. Hey, you're not shit for your family. This isn't the right way. Figure it out. And that's what I did. Mm-hmm. And sometimes guys just need to know, hey, listen, I'm here to listen. Mm-hmm. And especially guys and women in the fire service as well. And I know it's 2021, so I got to be careful what I say. But it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's not a bad thing.
Yep.
But there's a stigma that goes along with it that if, say, Pablo is my officer and I go and tell him an issue that I have going on, and that's where that trust issue comes in, I'm worried about Pablo going and saying what I just told him to the next guy. Hey, don't say anything, but this is what Herb told me. So I feel once the person gains trust in you, it helps a lot. It really does, because I mean, it's more life than anything. Because the frequency of these calls that the guys are saying, well, PTSD on this, a lot of times that stuff's coming from your home life.
Yep.
Right.
And it's just snowballing into your work life.
Right.
So don't be scared to talk about what's going on, man, because I can honestly tell you, and I'm just telling you from a personal standpoint, when I was able to talk about it, it felt like a weight came off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't carrying all that inside. I was able to express it to my peers and people that I respected, and the reaction wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought they were going to look at me in like disgust and be like, "Hey, man, you're fucking up right now." But instead, it was like, "Hey, listen, I'm right here with you. Whatever you need, I got you." And I feel that people that stigma within the fire service is, we can't talk about our feelings. We're supposed to be these badass firemen. Well, guess what? Even the most badass man cries every now and then.
Oh yeah.
So you got to understand that it's okay to fight those demons, but when you fight those demons, get that support behind you, because that's the way you're going to get through it.
Yep.
It's for me, every day I ask my guys, hey, you guys all right? Everything good? And invest in your crew. And if you're a company officer and you're listening right now, you are doing a disservice to your crew if you do not invest in your crew.
That's it.
You need to find out. I want to know their wives, their husbands, boyfriends, whatever it is. Invest in them, because, like I said before, in every podcast, I pretty much bring it up. There's a thing called brass poisoning. I am not there for a fucking rank. I could care less. None of us are doing it for the money. We do it because we have a passion for the job. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the passion for the job is, I care about my crew, and I care about the guys that I work alongside of. So I need to invest in them. They need to know that at 2:00 in the morning, they can count on me to be there for them, and vice versa. And I feel once you do that and your crew buys into you believing in them and you being there for them, you're going to see yourself as a company officer grow, and you're going to see that you're going to get so much back from the fire service than you didn't even know was there. So that's my own personal experience. I'll let Pablo go on his end, but that's my own personal experience.
Sorry.
That's hard to follow up. I couldn't. I mean, literally, I'm shaking my head because I'm like, well, fuck me. That's true. Everything is true. To me, just to piggyback on that, we don't brush anything under the table. Like it's okay to be like, like if you run a shitty call, like, oh, it's all right. It's all right to be like, oh, that fucking sucked. Like right away, just be like, oh, that fucking sucked, and just kind of shoot the shit about like what just happened. And if you had a shitty ass night, where you ran, 7-8 calls after midnight, you just wake up in the morning and you're like, just, talk about it. Just be like, well, damn, like sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and boys, we just got fucking nailed today,
Right.
and talk about it and don't brush shit under the table. And be there for your guys, and that's it, man. I it's hard to follow up what you just said because I literally would be repeating exactly what you said. Or that was beautiful, man.
No, but that's the truth, though, man. It's that stigma of us just being assholes to each other all the time and busting balls. I'm all for busting balls, but there comes a time when it's no different than all of us are instructors here on this podcast right now. When you're an instructor and you're lecturing or whatever the case is, you're reading the room. If you see you're losing them, what do? You give them a quick break, get them back in. You need to do the same thing with your crew, because if you're busting balls, you can read that body language. Hey, you know what? Hey, I'm sorry, buddy. Hey, everything good? Let's talk about it. And once you start doing that, I promise you, as a company officer, you're going to gain so much more respect from your crew, and they're just going to appreciate, because now it's not we're just at work and I'm doing this for him. No, LT is invested in me. He believes in me. He wants me to succeed.
Yep.
And that goes all the way down to, and me and Chief Johnson's had this conversation before. If you're a company officer and you're not training those guys on your truck to take your position, you're doing those guys on your truck a disservice.
100%.
I want every one of those guys that are on the truck with me to be better than me.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I want them to have more bugles than me. I want them to be a better fireman than me. I want them to live the all-American fireman dream and do it better than me.
That's it.
And that's it. So, Chief, I want to say thank you. Greg Rogers, I apologize, literally just texted me. That's why I was reading it. He said, great story. He's actually listening to it right now.
Awesome.
Rob's been chiming in as well. So we appreciate you coming on, man. It was truly a blessing and an honor to listen to everything that you were saying, man, and sharing your story with us.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate the platform and the thought.
Chief, that was very informative, man. I took not only a lot from your story, from a personal standpoint, but from a training standpoint too. That was very good there. A lot of stuff, a lot of nuggets that I'm going to take back, and a lot of nuggets that were reaffirmed. Stuff that we do,
Sure.
And that was phenomenal. Thank you.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun, Jay. I appreciate you, man. I mean, everybody said it tonight. Company officers, right? Your goal and your job is to make all your firefighters' dreams and aspirations come true before your own. Invest in your crew, invest in their families, make sure they know they have a family, as well as back at the firehouse as well as in their house. So thanks for everything, Jay. Man, if you would, man, tell people how they can get a hold of you, the name of your class, and how often you're willing to come and teach it, and just kind of close it up for us.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to be coaching, hopefully one-on-one sessions, and also going around speaking to fire departments or command staffs, kind of about how to set up the 3-tier program that I have with chaplaincy, peer support, and formal counseling. So if that's interest to some of y'all out there, you don't have to be a fire chief to have a session with me. I can talk to you just like anyone else. So my email address is J.A. Corthell. It's my last name, JACORTHELL at gmail.com. You can email me anytime. I'm pretty quick on it. I'll get back to you. And then also I'm having a website developed right now. It should be up within the next week. It's going to be called ironcladwellness.com. And I'll be having my coaching sessions registration on there, as well as my speaking availability.
Fantastic. If anybody out there wants to hit him up, make sure y'all do. It'll be well worth the time. I promise you.
Well, Chief, before we let you go, I got to ask you a serious question.
I feel like it's not going to be serious.
Oh, no, it's going to be serious. What is your thought on clean cabs?
Oh, shit.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, man. That's loaded, man.
Clean cabs don't make drives, Jay. Just say it.
All right. Clean caps don't make drag.
All right, I'm in.
Hey, I got a little nugget for everybody out there. You want a clean cab? Just clean the cab after the fire.
That's right. That's right.
Did I say that? Oh, just fucking clean your gear. Clean your SCBA. Whatever. That's it. Oh, there's your clean cab.
Well, Chief, hey, honestly, Chief, we appreciate it very much. We look forward to having you on again, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, of course. Anytime, guys. You guys be good.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you, Jay.
Man, that was good.
Yeah. Outstanding, man. He really is one of a kind. I mean, like y'all see, man, he's a gentle giant. He's like the 6'4", and he's a huge heart, man. He's a good fireman. He's a good chief, and I cannot speak better about the man himself. What y'all saw is what you will get 100% of the time.
Outstanding.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well,
man, not only that was fun, but I legitimately like the fact that like he's reaffirming stuff that when I mean we is because like stuff that I learned from Rob, and I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool. Like shit that happened in his own personal Mayday experience that I'm like, damn, like the stuff that we teach through NRC and stuff like that. It's phenomenal, man. It's a lot of nuggets to take home, not only from a personal but from an actual training experience there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think honestly, for y'all's advanced firefighter class, you could probably get a couple different slides built just off his experience.
Absolutely,
and and just say, hey, from like true life shit right here. This is what a guy experienced.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was awesome.
So, yeah, it was a good show, fellas. I think man, I've been looking at the comments on Facebook. We've got a lot of good comments, especially about the clean cab there at the end. But I think it was a home run, fellas.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it was definitely a home run, man. We got people listening from Australia. We got the Dirty Bay Fools. We got Wisconsin, Idaho, Florida, Georgia, Boston, Connecticut. I mean, it was a good show, man, and I can't thank you guys enough for filling in for Rob and Greg, man. It was awesome. I appreciate it very much.
Man, thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
Thank you for everything, man. It was an honor to be here tonight and share the screen with y'all. Just wish we could all be in that same hotel room y'all are in.
Hey. Hold on, let me touch Irby. No.
Yeah, well,
for whoever doesn't know, I'm actually Irby and I are actually in the same city. We are the NRC is teaching structure collapse this whole week, and I am in structure collapse as a student here taking it through NRC. So hashtag train with the best, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, train to live.
Well, hey man, it's if you guys don't follow Pablo, man, you guys got to follow Pablo and build your culture. Sean Duffy and them, it's they put out one hell of a great product. Chief Johnson, man, I can't say enough good things about you, dude.
I appreciate it.
You are few and far in between, man. There's not many like you.
I agree with that.
Just a fucking genuinely brother. Like, there's no other ways to say it. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. If you guys don't follow Chief Johnson, you need to. You guys be doing yourself a disservice if you don't. You guys will be doing yourself a disservice if you don't build your culture. They literally are changing the game. We're fortunate enough to have friends with Pablo and Sean, and we're doing stuff together, and we're going to be announcing some big stuff here together. We're going to do a combined conference. We just we haven't figured out the location yet.
Boom.
So
That's awesome.
As always, do your damn job.
That's
Do your
it.
damn job. That's the new logo right there.
That's the new logo.
First time it's shown out.
Hey, I want that logo on a hat right up the front, man.
Yeah, I'm getting it, man. My mom actually does embroidery. She has a little business, so I'm gonna get some hats made and some new stickers, and I'm gonna get some cups made, and we're gonna be rocking and rolling with it, man. And it's all because of brothers like y'all. I mean, Herb and Pablo and Duffy and Peppered and I mean Rob. I'm gonna miss if I start naming people, but y'all have truly changed my life. You have truly changed my life.
Out of my mouth, Chief. You took the words out of my mouth. At the end of the day, everybody that's on this comment on the comments on there, everybody that's on the screen right now, we are a product of the people that we surround ourselves with. You know, from our cadre here, from Build Your Culture, and I use cadre. You know, like our friends, the guys that we surround ourselves with. You know, our friends. Chris Targlio. God, I hate your last name, bro. Tag is literally down. You know, just came back from Task Force 6 deployment. Part of Build Your Culture. Tony Gillen. You know, Kyle Foley. These guys are friends that like we all have this common bond that we enjoy the fire service. We enjoy the passion that just comes out. You know, like Herbie, Rob, Greg. You know, Dave. You know, like Chief yourself, like, and you literally will start like name dropping guys for an hour. But the truth of the matter is, like, all of these guys that I just said have one thing in common. We all have one thing. You can fake a lot of shit, but you can't fake passion.
That's it.
You cannot fake passion. Fuckers will call you out in a heartbeat. Well, they'll be like, nah, this guy's full of shit. You can fake a lot, but you can't fake passion. We're all passionate fuckers, man. And you know, normalize saying I love you. So I love you all. And thank you for the invite on, brother.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And you guys know that you guys are family. You guys are welcome here anytime. We're going to give a quick shout out to the sponsors, and then we're going to sign off after that. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know we were gone for a little bit, but as you guys can see, we were a little busy and we're nonstop. So we appreciate everything. Breach Point USAR, the Cam Man Radio Show, First Do Screen Printing. Cannot say enough great things about those guys. You need anything done, screen printing, embroidery. They do all of NRC's screen printing and embroidery. Taylor's Tins, one of the most jam up guys I've ever met in my life.
100%. Dude
is amazing. Rescue Systems Unlimited. They are phenomenal. They're a Genesis provider with a bunch of other equipment. They do solid. Forge Fire makes some of the best training props out there. Nozzleman Leather, the only leather company that NRC wears. And then a huge shout out to Miko Fire. Bobby Gonzalez, the VP of the company, the most stand-up dude. Honestly, he is a believer in the fire service, loves the fire service, and give you the shirt off his back. The other person that we forgot to put up here, I apologize, is Draeger. Draeger and Lion Gear. They're big sponsors of NRC, so we appreciate them as well. None of this would be where it's at, this podcast, if it wasn't for you guys tuning in all the time and literally texting and commenting, hey, when you guys putting it back out. We apologize. We're gonna keep trying to get more content out there. But honestly, we appreciate you guys. Pablo, I appreciate you. Chief Johnson, I appreciate you guys so much. And until the next one.
All right, buddy. Love you, dude. Y'all be careful.
Thank you.
Guys.